Hey guys, today I'm going to show you how to play and progress the craziest farming build I've played so far in all of Diablo 4. I have played some of the most powerful builds every season so far, and the Cataclysm Druid, to me, has been the most efficient open world and speed clearing build I've played. The build does well in higher levels of the pit, but it requires some seasonal occult gems and some tougher to find runes. Now, to be clear, I am not the architect of the build, and I'm not pretending to be. I follow the Maxroll S+ tier build, link in the description, with some variations based on missing some of the gems and runes as I mentioned above. I don't recommend leveling with this build. I played a companion druid from 1 to 60, and I farmed some of the required pieces for the Cataclysm Druid in Torment 1 fairly easily and quickly. For the entry level speed build to work, you need 5 things. You need Eridra's Inexorable Will, dropped from Echoes of Varshan. You need the Mjolnir Ring from Lord Zur. You need a Tempest Roar, which is easier to get than earlier seasons, from Andariel or Duriel, or the open world or helmet gambling. I think I got mine from doing that. The Zon rune, which was the last thing I found, and enough cooldown reduction to ensure that you can hit Cataclysm before the timer of your last kata runs out. Essentially, you'll start out each map or zone rather clunky and build up some buffs, most importantly the buff from the Zon rune, and snapshot those buffs with Cataclysm so you can run around indefinitely and just melt entire screens. Snapshotting, if you're not aware, is when you press a skill that will consume certain buffs and you will get those buffs for the duration of a skill. And since Cataclysm lasts a long time, you enjoy those buffs for a long time. And as long as you have enough cooldown reduction, all you really have to do is refresh the ultimate right after it runs out. If you follow the guide on Maxroll, it will recommend the rune combinations of Igni plus Zon, as well as Bach plus Cax. I'm currently just under Paragon level 200, and I have not found an Igni or a Bach rune, so I'm going to show you what I have been using instead. The Cax rune is fairly common, and I have found many of them so far. So what I'm using in place of Igni for the Igni plus Zon combo is Neo plus Zon. And instead of Bach plus Cax, I'm using Sem plus Cax, two rarely common building runes. Again, these are budget options for when you're searching for the others. Now you can easily trade for any missing runes, but I'm playing a self-certified solo self-found, I guess you'd call it, at least up until this point. If I go much longer without crafting or finding the missing runes, if I'm still into this character, I may turn to trading, but I'm just still avoiding it as of this video anyway. Alright, let me show you quickly how I enter a zone using these budget ritual runes. I step out of town, hit my debilitating roar, earthen bulwark, and hurricane, and I run around and tag mobs and use evade on cooldown until I fulfill the 2 buffs you get from the Zon and the Cax rune. You can also snapshot some other buffs for shapeshifting or time your hurricane properly before hitting Cataclysm, but for tier 4 speed farming, even with just super mid gear, outside of higher pit runs, it's not necessary because everything just dies immediately as you run past it. So once you fill these 2 bars, the buff will appear in the row of buffs, and your next skill will consume the buffs. So it's really important you save your Cataclysm for when these 2 buffs are active. You're going to have to run around a little bit and avoid being smoked by baddies, casting evade on cooldown to build up your Cax rune, but as soon as the 2 buffs look like this at the bottom, hit your Cataclysm and it's off to the races. You can push your debilitating roar and your earthen bulwark as needed, but be very careful using your hurricane at this point because it will consume your Zon rune to give your hurricane the guaranteed overpower and critical strike, and you'll have to let your Cataclysm completely run out before basically doing the whole thing over again. It basically steals the buff from your Cataclysm. So you'll know that it's working when all the numbers on the screen that your Cataclysm touches are orange, meaning that you're getting a critical strike and an overpower on every single hit. Now all you have to do is run around, hit debilitating roar and earthen bulwark basically when you feel like it, maybe when damage isn't coming, and spam Cataclysm once the time gets close to 0 so you can ensure you hit it again before the previous cast runs out. If it runs out, you'll have to do the whole song and dance again to ensure your buffs are active. Now, I have messed around a little bit replacing Hurricane just because I tend to screw that up a lot and steal the buff from my Cataclysm on my Hurricane and have to do it all over again. And honestly, you don't even really need the Hurricane. for Torment 4 at the level that I'm at. You, however, would need that if you're gonna try to push the pit and if you're following the build guide on Maxroll to a T. So what you're seeing here is Torment 4, and I'll show you my gear here in a moment, but I want you to see how powerful you can become for farming with literally no items fully masterworked. You can see here that I have a couple 4 out of 12s, a bunch of 8 out of 12s, and a couple on their way to 12 out of 12. And then so let's look at the gear. Again, there is a more powerful version of this build, but I'm not a huge fan of pushing the pit anyway. So I'm pretty happy with what I've got so far. Obviously looking for this other 2 builder runes. But I have had many tunes in previous seasons with arguably way better gear than this, but they couldn't clear zones like this guy can. It's the perfect farming character, especially for gearing alts. Like, for example, you can farm Grim Favors really fast and then just, throw those in your bag, save the caches for your alts, and then just open them all at once. And you can basically level from 1 to 60 in like 30 seconds. I think what I'm showing here, I think I leveled all the way up to 54. I didn't quite have enough saved up to go to 60, but it's pretty cool seeing this. I'll put a list of all the gear you need to do what I'm doing here in the comments, as well as the link to the Maxroll build. We don't need to go over each piece in the video. Somehow I still haven't found the flicker step boots, which is probably a better option for speed farming. So I'll just list what I'm using, but know that that is part of the speed farming variant. I did follow the Maxroll build planner to the T for this build without deviation, including the spirit boons and most of the Paragon board recommendations after I took the required glyph nodes and legendary nodes. Those are basically required. And then, the rest of the recommendations, probably follow those. But like if you're already capped on armor, like I am, like overcapped, you can probably back off some of maybe the armor nodes and so on and so forth. It's also worth mentioning I haven't upgraded all of my glyphs to 45 either. I only have 1 max so far. I'm going to go do that real quick because that is pretty easy, but there's just kind of so many different things. I've been trying to get those runes, been trying to farm all of the seasonal powers. And again, I play for short bursts, half hour at a time, potentially maybe a nice session on the weekend if, friends aren't on and don't want to play Marvel Rivals or something, But anyway, I've been playing very part-time and again, short bursts, but that's the point of this video, is to show you how you can dominate all Torment 4 activities with mostly entry-level items as a filthy casual. Again, if you liked this video, short to the point, consider dropping a like and subscribe. It would mean a lot. I'm about 20 hours from my 3,000 required hours, and I need about 70 subs to hit my 500 sub mark. So if you'd like to be a part of this channel growing, I would much appreciate it. Thank you, and have a good day.